driveway access. There is an access out there, but because this is a change of use, there would need to be a generation study and an update or change to the driveway access. I suspect that original driveway access was part of the overall widening project for the highway out there. So it's a fairly straightforward process, because when that access road was put into place, they would have taken into account the higher trips that would have possibly happened in an industrial commercial area, but you still have to go through the permitting process. Additionally, erosion and sedimentation control and stormwater for a site of that size, that will go through DEQ as well. So you would need to do analysis and design, submit plans to get permits for those. And any of the buildings on the site, there's an adjacent accessory buildings that would have to meet building code. It would go through county code officials, and all of the normal development process that you would have for commercial development anywhere else would be the same thing here. You'd have to go through and get those projects done, those processes done with the different permitting agencies. So if you have any questions, I'll be, or at least from the engineering technical side, I'd be glad to field them.
Mr. Blue, was it your office that submitted this December 1st, 2025 special use permit narrative to the commissioners?
It is. I put that down as draft because I'm not sure what the provisions would be for the special use permit. As I understand, you could put all sorts of different provisions. So that was just from what I understood at the time. And again, it's very preliminary. Once this is done, then I would go into a detailed analysis and design permitting process and submit as an official engineering report and submittal process.
I guess the question I had for you is, at the prior zoning board meeting, the plat or the scheme that was submitted said there would be 51 units.
Mhm.
Your project description said there would be 149.
Yeah, I think it was just a typo on my part.
Sir?
I think that was just a typo on my part. The plan layout is for 51, and the assessment that I did for the intensity of the on-site wastewater was for that. But regardless, before anything could actually be placed on site, this is purely preliminary. We would need to go through a full detailed on-site soils inspection and investigation. A licensed soil scientist would go out there and do a site assessment. I would obtain that information. I would look at the hydraulic conductivity, the long-term acceptance rate for the site, and then all sorts of other things. There's buffers, there's landscape slope, and make sure that it would fit on site. Additionally, one of the reasons that it comes up like this is because in RV parks, due to the amount of wastewater generated from flushing toilets and such relative to other household uses that you normally have, it can become what's known as high strength effluent. So there are some other provisions that maybe need to take into account. But again, it goes through a standard permitting process. All that's submitted for review and approval. And it was no different than somewhere else that would have a similar type of intensity.
So the initial plat that was submitted showing future development site is no longer.
Correct, yes. As I said, this, we'll only be focusing on 51 sites. Even that's why this time, I know that created confusion last time. Our plan has always been the case. We are not going to exceed 51. It is going to be, this is the max. That's just going to be a park area for septic, anything else that's needed, call it for engineering, whatever it is. That area is just reserved for that. And that's what we're going for. And even this 51, right? We are not going to be able to make all of these from day one, right? This is going to be like a 2-year, 3-year project. We are going to start with 10, as is the demand. We're going to go to 20, right? But to make the process efficient and time savings for everybody, we're like, all right, let's come with this number 51 based on where we're able to fit. And then, if based on his analysis, if we can only do 25, that's what we're going to do. This is the approach that even, a couple of other RV parks in the county are doing. Like currently they have like 10 and now they're scaling to 15, applying. So that's what we're doing. Like this 51 is just like a number that we've come up with just based on where we are able to fit. But we don't plan to expand more than 51. Certainly we will be able to do less than 51 based on based on the demand we see.
I think someone mentioned at the last meeting that for these 51 units, I don't know how they arrived at this, but they said there were septic tanks would accommodate 4 units per septic tank. Is that roughly accurate, or?
It really depends on how you want to group them and the sizing. There's probably 3 dozen different ways that you could
This is
address
how
the
they
on-site
got
wastewater.
right here.
Yeah, that's one option. But once the on-site soils have a detailed assessment, it may be that you could have more grouping or less grouping, but also within the phasing, you would want to put the phasing of the leach fields in the tank such that it would accommodate a certain group, and then you would phase for the next group, and then you would phase for the next group.
So the location of these 51 units would be fluid.
Yeah, because you may go out there and find that there's some limitations on the site and that you couldn't place it in this area, that you would need to shift it over. And actually just, basic drainage, you from a design standpoint, an operation and maintenance standpoint, you want the simplest system possible. You don't want something that's very complicated, that's, the higher likelihood that you're going to have more maintenance requirements. And so you try to work with the general landscape that's out there. So where you do the siding, once you get more detailed information on soils investigation, it could change somewhat. It absolutely could.
But it is roughly accurate to say that there'd have to be 13 septic tanks located somewhere out there for 51 units.
Possibly, but you've got both the way some of these things are done is you can group them in certain areas, and this is an idealized layout of a rectangular layout of a septic system. But of course, you got a tank. You may have a pre-treatment tank. You can think of that as sort of like an old water separator, but that's not exactly the way this is. And then you've got your leach field. You've got your drain lines. So there's different components in the leach field system and in the overall on-site wastewater treatment system. So again, this is schematically where it would be. The final approval would be once the information obtained from the soil scientists, I do an analysis and design on it, and I submit it for permits. And then the regulators would look at it and say, yes, we agree with this, or no, we don't. You need to make sure that you're meeting our requirements. So it goes through a multi-step process.
They're showing a relatively small area there for that leach area. And I didn't see any point in getting into that before, but for 150 of these RVs, it would take 38 septic tanks and leach fields.
Yeah,
And there's no way in the world you're gonna get that in that. Now, that is, from what I remember, from what topiary map we saw briefly on the screen, that is the low point of that property, and it seems to be fairly flat. But with 100 foot of leach line on 38 tanks, that's gonna take a lot more than's presented here.
I
yes,
think 51, right?
it's 51. I think the
Now,
prior,
wait a minute here. The application was 51. The next application was 149.
No, we've never submitted anything for 149. It's all from day one.
I
it's
know I read 149 in here. Look at it.
I think he said it's a typo, but.
yeah, when I was preparing a prior document, I think I had a
twice.
typo in there.
Yeah, like even last month when we met, we had the plans only for 51, and even all the drawings that we've submitted is for 51. And even today, the revised the document that Thomas I print, the draft version says 51 on page 1. There is no 149. That it cannot happen. We don't have that much budget anyways. We are not like a big that we are going to build 150 RV sites. So it's always been 51 from day one. Last time we met, it was 51. Nothing has changed.
What did it present to the commissioners?
51.
Well, it was the document that came in with the application was 149, but he said that was.
Yeah, and like
A typo.
we provided this to the commissioners as well. The same. It was for
We
51 as well.
presented
And
51
Brooke was
to
there.
the
Debbie was there. Everybody was
We presented
there.
51 to the commissioners. This typo that says 149 is something that was submitted after we even went to the commissioners.
Yep. Like even first time we met.
December 1st of 2025 on it, but that's.
And that's the commissioners meeting.
Well, let me ask you this.
That wasn't,
Do you have permission under the contract, the potential sales contract? Does the buyer have permission to go out and do studies of the site? The realtor's here.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Does the buyer have permission to have site studies done as part of due diligence?
Yes, if you approve.
Well, what if?
No, that's not what he asked.
Yeah, what I was driving at is there any reason you can't get a study done to see whether this would accommodate 51 before it gets approved?
Well, the assessment I did was based on the soil survey data for the site.
Uh-huh.
And so with the soil survey data, it's actually soil mapping units. It's not a detailed survey. And the entire basis for soil mapping units was for agricultural production. So soil mappers went out there decades and decades ago.
You're
and
talking about soil types.
soil types, but they're mapping units. And so you can have inclusions in there. Up to a certain percentage of a soil mapping unit, maybe a different unit. But generally the landscape form, as I looked at it, is a sandy loam as it rolls through there. It has a certain depth thickness, and there are a few different types. It does generally fall back from the road and then drops back down at the back. So I do expect some differentiation in there. You always have that with soils. You can't just assume that the soil survey is correct because it's just an approximation. That being said, the general types of soil, the general landscape position out there is more than adequate to take the waste loading at the site. So
For 51.
yeah, as an example, say if you have a site and you have just a single family home, I'm sure you've seen around here, you can have mound systems, you can have chamber systems, there's all sorts of different systems for just a standard residential system that can change the amount of leach line that you would need. And that's irregardless of soil type. So there are multiple different ways to actually handle the on-site wastewater. You can get much more intense systems that would allow more waste treatment. That actually would probably accommodate 3 times as much, but that's not what's being proposed.
And that's gonna cost the developer a whole lot more.
It would cost them a whole lot more. So again, the simpler, more straightforward, and really, I would say long-term, more robust systems is what's being proposed, because you might say it doesn't require such operational control.
I guess one of my concerns is the impact on the community. You know, by bringing this to our community, are we bringing additional problems that we already don't need to have in our community? And how do you plan to mitigate or address that issue?
Yes, so that's something that, we've been discussing this for a couple of weeks, talked to Thomas about it as well, and so as we all know that, the customers you're gonna serve are gonna be broadly, construction skilled traders, right? They'll be coming in for construction in Scotland County, they'll be coming in construction for Richmond County, for a data center, whatever it is, right? So what's important to understand is these are gonna be staying short term, right? Their project varies from a couple of months, to 6 months or something. So it's not long-term permanent stay, right? So temporary stay, good working people, skilled trades, like the electricians, so I work at, one of these construction companies myself, right? So I know that most of the time, many of these people are veterans who once served the army and, Navy, whatever it is, now they're, out of it, working with unions, just as construction, electricians, plumbing, mechanical, or whatever it is, right? So the good thing about them is, they get paid per diem from their company, right? So they are willing to pay up to $750, $800. Like last time I know we touched on it, on, utilizing that RV spot, right? So we're talking about people who are able to afford such a place. You can see there are going to be decent amenities. There's a recreation building. And in the future, we do plan on adding more amenities like splash pads, because we want to make it like a parcel for an RV resort for a bunch of different type of people, right? You can come on a weekend, take a vacation. I know Debbie does that, John does that, even everybody, many of them do that, right? So at the end, as the county grows, I know there are a lot of, land use. I did research that as well. There is a community project going on. There's a highway building going on, more growths coming up, so right? So the plan is as more of these people who keep coming in to support the construction of these projects, we are okay, this is going to expand more and more, and it's going to bring good people. It's not going to be something who is going to become a nuisance to the community, but it's going to add value to the community, because that's the type of RV park that we're trying to build. It's not going to be something that's run down. We are investing a lot of time, a lot of landscaping, security. There's going to be check-in, check-out process, 24/7 security, background verification. There has to be rules and regulations maintained. You cannot enter after a certain time, And the good thing is, I think Thomas has mentioned in his notes that, it's going to be a low impact project based on his preliminary traffic analysis, because it's much less busier than a residential neighborhood, where you can see all the cars coming in to drop off kids or something. Because over here, people have different working hours, right? Someone leaves at 6 a.m., someone leaves at 8 a.m. or a 9 a.m., so all of that can, help distribute the traffic, and at the same time, the type of people that come in, it's going to make the neighborhood more appealing, and because right now, if you go there, it's a junkyard. It's literally a junkyard. It's what you guys don't want, right?
I
And
don't think it is a junkyard, is it?
the back of the parcel is, right?
What,
On this same parcel?
is it junkyard?
Part of the back part of this property, the person who owns the back part, his relatives have been dumping stuff on this land
This-
too.
you
And
see
they've
this
been
where it
asked
says
to
dirt
remove it.
road?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Both sides of that dirt road are covered with old cars, old
Exactly.
junk cars, junk trucks, both sides.
Yep.
On the right side of that dirt road, as you come in there, on the left is woods, and on the right is a farm field.
Exactly. So
And it
right
goes-
now,
and
it's
it goes
suspected.
clear to the end of the property here before you can turn around and go back. Like right through here.
Exactly.
So you did a traffic study, is that what you said? You did-
No, we'd have to I did look at the traffic count numbers out there, and I would do a trip generation analysis. That's part of the normal driveway access permit request.
Because the neighbor directly across the street who has young children was raising that issue at the last meeting.
Yeah, and DOT always takes, well, actually, child safety is the number one thing they take into account. So if there's additional speed limit changes or signage or turn lane or anything like that, that would be part of the DOT review and approval process.
And the good thing is, last time I know even you were there in the Board of Commissioners meeting, I think you made a good point. Anybody who has a budding or an adjacent property should have. But the good thing is, as you can see on one side, there is a solar farm. On the other side, as you were saying, it's just a farm or something, right? Opposite, it's a warehouse. And I think even next couple of blocks down, a brewery is coming up. That's the SUP that, the committee approved just a couple of weeks back, right? So there's a lot
I
of,
didn't understand what you just said.
They approved the brewery.
Yeah.
yeah, so that's just going to be, a couple of blocks from this parcel, right? So, I mean, what I'm trying to get to is there's not a lot of residential dwellings as it is, as anyways, we're outside the city limit anyways, and they are all around this parcel, at least a mile or so, it's all rated for non-residential uses. So,
Yeah, whatever, at least two people who were adjoining property owners, if you consider the man across the street as adjoining, but Mr. Campbell adjoins it in the back.
mhm,
Now, you said in your application or what was submitted that there would be wide perimeter buffers
correct,
and also setbacks.
Correct.
What's the definition of wide?
wide.
What do you mean by wide? What are X number of feet? What-
Yeah, so right in this one, right, I think we've tried to show in one of our notes that the first RV is going to be 90 feet from perpendicular distance from the road, right? So if you have your Highland Road right here, the first RV that you're going to see over here, so technically this distance from Highland Road to this first RV is 90 feet.
And would that be a vegetative buffer?
Yes, it's going to be all trees, that's what we're trying to show over here because as one of you just mentioned, there's a lot of dirt, a lot of scrap around. We don't want even the customers, see all of that. So while we try to, work with the property owner, Mr. Campbell, to remove some of his junk, the plan is to use setbacks, use buffers. And again, all of that is also for the neighbors, right?
What are the setbacks and buffers for the rest of the?
So I think we follow the zoning guidance. The setback, the front is 40 feet, side is 10 feet each, and the back is 30 feet. And that's on this,
So you're basically doing what the ordinance requires you to do.
that we met the minimum and we've gone above. We've gone above that. So as I was saying, the front is only 40 required. We've got 90, right? And on the back side is 10 feet, but we've gone almost like 30, 40 feet because there is this trees we are putting in, we have driveways which are 25 feet each. So that itself is 50 feet right there.
So the side buffer you're proposing is 40
Correct,
and the back is 40?
correct. Yep. Ideally, we don't have anything at the back, so it's all empty anyways.
You can't tell that from this rendering here. And, I guess with that, you're talking about clearing brush and trees, but what size of trees are you talking about putting in? Because that would make you could put a small tree in there that wouldn't show up for 30 years. And that would render that useless.
You can dictate, and the commissioners can eventually
Yeah.
dictate how much that would be, or what kind.
Yep.
What kind would be required.
Well,
In fact, I might
it's,
want to hear what you have to say.
I think honestly with this, you could say you put in trees for buffering and you go out there and you got trees that are 2 foot tall and
No,
never
yeah.
get watered and never survive.
Well,
And you see that with project after project after project.
I would not recommend trees in general. I would use probably wax myrtles. They're extremely robust, native, extremely low maintenance. They will grow 6 feet in a year, sometimes 10 feet in a year. You've probably all seen wax myrtles around and maybe not even known them. You probably get no better vegetation locally for that. They grow in a thick natural hedge, especially in an open site like that. And even if I planted these on, John can probably tell you, I don't know, dozens, hundreds of different projects over the years with different landscape designs. And they're very aggressive. There are no maintenance whatsoever. And they're natural and provide evergreen screening, almost immediately.
And even right now on the parcel, I think in the previous submission, we would have had some Google images. There's a lot of vegetation already, like especially on the perimeters, right? So, and that's like almost 40, 50 feet, right? I think that you looked at it because we were utilizing him to clear some of the parcel, do leveling and all of that, right? So do you want to talk how big those are anyways?
Well, there's, I guess it's regenerating from when the timber was harvested last, and, pretty much everything out there is at least as high as the ceiling. I mean, it's 10 or 15 foot tall already, what's coming back, and there's some very large trees in the front, near the highway that I guess weren't harvested or were left. There's some pines that are very large still on, the front side of it, but pretty much all of it looks like it's been harvested is regenerated.
So yeah, as I was saying, it's
One
already,
thing about a situation like that, how close together are these trees that are regenerating?
It's just natural regeneration. I mean,
Sometimes that can be 3 or 4 feet apart. And
yeah,
they're standing up there like toothpicks. You couldn't possibly leave one because you're gonna
Yeah.
destroy the root to get the one that's beside it.
well, it may have to be, may have to be done with mulching. You could go through there and mow down what you don't want, leave what you do. You know how they do with the skid
grade
steer.
it.
Well, I wouldn't say
Well,
grade,
he's
you're not gonna
talking-
compact the root zone, but I think if you put the provision in, as you were stating, that you wanted a certain type of vegetation or a certain density, you could certainly have that as a criteria. So you would do selective thinning. Obviously, in natural regrowth, you typically have trees that are overstocked and you would want to cut them. But I wouldn't go in and do any active grading because the entire point is to have a natural vegetative buffer. So I would thin it out to an appropriate density, cut it down at the root, and then leave it for natural revegetation and regrowth of that. I mean, it's just like when you put field pines out there, you do a 3 and 8 year and 20-year thinning because you overplant to begin with.
You do that, but when you cut the timber and you're saying you're gonna come in there and cut it with a mulcher head.
I did
No,
not
I
say that.
think he was
That's,
just
I would say
referring
hand
to-
clearing.
To the buffer part of it was all he
Well,
was.
the regeneration is gonna be the same thing you cut unless it's sprayed. Yeah.
Well,
I
if
can
you,
tell you.
I guess I could give you different landscaping solutions if that's the concern. And I can provide info, but
Well,
at
I
least
don't
for the
know.
technical-
The thing is that it just doesn't look realistic what.
I mean, this is a render, right? Like this
I
is just
know,
the
and
3D
it's
render.
almost like a fairy tale, because I mean, there's no detail on here. And, I think you're presenting the best possible picture, and we have to realize that that may not be what ends up.
Right, and that's why we are open. If you want to move forward in a way where we have to put conditions, we are certainly going to make sure that we are following that. And again, our intent is we don't want to do something that the community doesn't like. All our intent has been we want to grow with the community and make sure that this is a good place. Like when we come back again, we were like, hey, you guys did a good job. We want our if somebody else wants to come up with an RV park next time, we're gonna be like, hey, look at this. This should be like a an example for you if you want to build one. So we are not trying to just sell anything, we are trying to do our best and make sure that, from day one, we are building the best we can. And that's our goal, from day one.
How long would it take you to do, assuming you had access to the property to make a determination about where these things had to be reconfigured to have the septic fields.
Well, I would not personally do it. That would be
The firm wouldn't do it.
well, is the way it's set up, there are 3 different options, maybe 4 different options under the state guidelines. And the way I would say it's probably the best to approach this is to have a licensed soil scientist go out there and do an assessment of the different soils. So they're going to go out there with a hand auger. They're going to go down and do a hand determination of, texture and depth and other things of that nature. And they will basically hand map out, as the original soil surveyors did, where the different soil types are. And they'll map it out by what's known as the LTAR, the long-term acceptance rate. And they'll say, okay, this area here, can it take so many gallons per square foot per day of loading? And so you would size your nitrification, your conventional nitrification fields by that. And you might say, okay, well, this, you can actually take more here, you can take less here. I think I did a preliminary analysis at 0.6 gallons per square foot per day. And it may be that it's 0.8 or 1.2. I took a more conservative basis of what I thought was out there based upon the soil mapping units. From that, you do a layout. And, I've done it on the soil mapping units. I've looked at what it would take to do the overall detailed assessment, but, 30 acres, it would take some time and a fair amount of investment to get that done. So I think what he was asking me is, based upon the available information, what do you think the most reasonable intensity that we could get, knowing that it might be less?
So it's 51.
Yeah, it may be less, but it may, if it's more, he's not asking for more. So you would cap the limit at 51. But if the soils ended up saying, well, it can't support 51, well, then you can't get the 51. You're
Not
capped at that level.
Correct.
Now, does the location of where the 51 units go have any impact on where the DOT might approve the?
Well, it's really about your stacking distance. So they're going to take into account the overall traffic, the number of trips per day, when that traffic occurs, how fast they think that traffic is going to be occurring, and then the stacking. So the way your entrance configuration is, like a school or a church. If you got an event, you got a whole lot of people that are stacked up on the road, they don't want that for traffic safety. So as he was pointing out, because this is not a typical event-driven space where you have a whole lot of people coming in once, a whole lot of people leaving at once, you distribute the load out over a longer time. So safety concerns you might have in this intense space is not like you would have somewhere else. Now, if an event center was put at the back, that would be a change of use that DOT would look separately. They say, okay, well, you need to take into account this change of use. You would need to have another permit. And besides, that would have to go for approval for the county again anyway.
So the DOT driveway permit may be affected by the number of units, but not necessarily the configuration of the units on the property.
More the total number of units going in and out the driveway. And whether you had 1 or 2, they're looking at adjacent uses, distance to another intersection. There's a wide variety of things that we're looking
Like
at.
a railroad that somebody mentioned at the front.
Yeah, all those sorts of things.
This is 2 months in a row we've looked at this thing, and the first application, everything west of the utility lines was future development. And somewhere in the meantime, the number 149 comes in. And, for you to say that it's only 51, and we've already hinted or heard the hint of future development, and to get this other number, it's hard to tell where this is going.
I mean, when we have the ability to put conditions on the permit if we issue it to not exceed that 51. So we have the ability to put those conditions on the permit if we so issue it. But I just have a few points or questions. As far as like with the RV park, I know you say it's going to bring individuals in to, that's going to be doing contract work, and they're going to be, buying food, things of that nature, maybe gas. But then that's taken away from hotels and things of that nature. And I know Scotland County has an issue with housing. So why or what, how is this benefiting that issue?
The housing,
Yeah, so how is that going to benefit the issue? It's not. So, and what I'm saying is, it goes into everything else. I'm getting ready to discuss, like, how does it incorporate or line up with the land use, the comprehensive land use permit that we have? Like I said, it's taken away from the local hotels. If individuals want to come stay for contract work, they would be able to stay in hotels. And as well, they have the option to be able to utilize our local hotel. But then if you have an RV park, they're gonna come in, stay at the RV park. I know they're gonna be buying gas and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But how is it benefiting Scotland County?
Right, that's pretty much the question I have also is, why do you think we need this? I mean, do you know something we don't know? I mean,
yeah, of course, that's great questions, right? I'll try to break it down to two parts, right? Number one, does Scotland County need this, right? That's number one question. And definitely, Scotland County needs it. I think Brooke and Debbie, they both can answer and support what I'm going to say as well, that, both of them keep getting a lot of calls like, hey, do we have an RV park here? Like, is because the one that's there is either full or they don't offer the amenities that they're looking for and things like that sort of nature, right? So there's definitely, calls coming in to people of the community, like asking about RV park, right? And the second,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but to verify in real time, are you guys getting calls to ask you about?
Do you have
RV?
this in your packet?
We do.
so
Okay, this was a study that was done in 2024, a North Carolina housing study done by the North Carolina Realtors, North Carolina Chamber of Commerce, and North Carolina Home Builders Association. And it shows the deficit that Scotland County is in as far as rentals. Yes, I will guarantee you, I get at least 5 or 6 calls a week wanting to know, can we park an RV in my grandmother's yard or in the back part of her land? She's got 10 acres of land. You can't do it. There's no, you just can't do it. So there's nowhere for people to actually go
can that
and
not
put
be
their
done?
campers in and basically stay in their campers while they visit, work. We get people that have sold houses and they need to basically get out of their house so it can close. They got nowhere to go until it gets closed. I mean,
Ordinance
it's
does
not,
allow a camper to be your primary dwelling unless you have an active permit in building a new house, not renovating a mobile home, but
Well, I
building
can
a
tell
new
you they're
house.
out there.
That's all I get ready to say.
Oh, yeah.
They're
Yeah,
out
they
there.
out there living in them. And you see it
Unless
daily.
we get
What y'all
calls
been doing
on,
in inspections department?
well, unless we get calls on them, we can't go onto the property and inspect that.
Right.
And, we can go and see if they're hooked up to septic and water, but there's no way that we can tell if they're living in them.
now, who are those people that are calling you? Are they construction workers that are coming in to
There has
do a
been
rebuild
family
at the glass
members,
plant or?
it's a lot of different people. Yeah, I mean.
there have been family members that wanna stay for like holidays. There have been people that want to build a new house, pieces at the time, they can't afford to do it right away. Can we stay in our camper for a year? No.
yeah,
So
so
I do get calls.
So
And I get them all the time.
I can tell you, from my experience, a lot of the construction workers that are coming in, they're loading up hotels in Moore County. And they're loading up apartments in Moore County. And they can't meet the demand there. And so,
Well, they're not gonna come this far.
oh, they will.
Yes,
The
they
price point in Moore County is so much higher that they would way more.
Okay, I don't even think they'd come from Rockingham. You say they'll come from Southern Pines? I don't believe that.
So based on the research, when I mentioned last month, right, we did a lot of research. We spoke to a lot of people, who work in this construction area, who live out of RV parks, like, sometimes for projects, when they go from different project work. What they mentioned is they don't mind driving up to 30 to 35 minutes for a good RV space that can offer good amenities like Wi-Fi, a good security, amenities for their family, because sometimes they also they're not the only one traveling. They either have their kid with them or they have their wife with them, living with them, right? Sometimes when they are on a different project. So,
Well,
yes.
well, wouldn't a better place for this be up 401 somewhere? Be closer to Rockingham and
nothing
be
wrong with
closer
this
to
place,
Southern
though.
Pines than to be way down here on 74.
So the reason, one of the reasons where, we picked this location is traffic, right? Like, traffic has been a good point. This parcel is like about a quarter mile from the ramp that goes to I-74 or something, right, Debbie? So it's a very easy, access to the highway ramp. And then in addition to that, while people move, they're also looking for things to do, right? Places to eat, places to hang out. There's a Walmart, Home Depot, Food Lion, all of them in very close proximity from this parcel right here. So, and as I mentioned last time, right, this is not the only one we looked at. We went all the way to Moore County. We went to Wagram, different parcels, different sizes. Everything has their own, pros and cons. This one, we were able to hit every bucket, like close to amenities, yes. Highway access, yes. Size and utilities, public water, septic system,
Wait
all
a
of,
minute, you just said septic system, you don't have it.
I'm sorry?
You add that as a plus.
No,
the
we
septic
should,
system,
we
but
could
you don't
install
have
it, right? Like, I mean, the point is that the parcel will be able to support it.
So I looked at some other sites I think there were 3 other sites. And so some of them were very limited because of the on-site soils and the landscape position, the other limiting features for on-site wastewater septic systems. So I think that's what he's referring to. This was much better. Of the sites that we looked at, this is probably the best. I'm sure it's the best in terms of application for septic systems.
Mr. Shaw, your application that was submitted via Mr. Blue said you're gonna enhance our tax base.
Mhm.
What do you anticipate the value to be if you were to get this permit on this property?
I have not done that evaluation on how, but the thing I know is we're going to be putting in at least $750,000 to $1 million in investment just for this, right?
Of course, we don't tax based on what you put in.
Correct. But this is going to increase the property value. So every time, I think Scotland County does a property valuation, tax assessment evaluation every 4 years or something. So every 4th year, because of the amenities that the property parcel will have, the tax value is going to keep increasing every year as you go, So that's the tax bracket that will be contributing, increased tax bracket.
Of course, the RV units themselves are not taxable.
No, correct. It's the amenities that we add on to the parcel, like the park, a splash pad, a recreation building,
You don't have any idea how much the investment's gonna be for that?
Investments?
Or how much the increased value would be?
I think the county would be
I think,
responsible for doing that.
yeah, I think the county's property tax appraisals, they are the ones who would be probably doing that. I have not done that. Probably for
When
the
we get asked for incentives, the people always tell us how much they're going to invest, and that's part of the agreement about what incentive you're gonna get is scaled to what your increase in the tax rate is gonna be, so.
okay. I did ask Brooke about incentives. I know she mentioned that there are no incentives for you. So
The thing
well,
is that this is not gonna have any property value except for the property, the land itself and then whatever septic tank, streets, lights, buildings, whatever.
What-
But you're gonna have 51 units that are totally untaxable.
the revenue that is going to be taxable, right, to the county, because the business is based out of here, right? And any revenue that we make, that's the tax bracket as well. That's going to add to it. Like, let's say
Sales tax revenue.
exactly, because we do have to file taxes. All of that tax is going to come to the Scotland County.
Not all of it.
I mean, not all of it. Not all of it.
Well, is there gonna be tax on rent?
I'd say it would be.
Tax on rent. I'm sorry, said.
I mean, occupancy fee, I don't know how it's set up for Scotland County occupancy rate fee.
I don't know, because I mean, if you're saying all that comes into the business, from what I could understand, and I did not understand you clearly, but I did understand clearly that at least one of you lives in Concord,
Mhm.
and yet your application says Columbus, Ohio. So
That's me.
again, we don't know exactly what's
No, that's
going
me
on.
because I have a permanent house over there. So it's easy for all the, letters and everything to come reside.
Well, that's not gonna be here in Scotland County for the tax or the.
No, the business is
profit.
based on, the LLC that we make has to be formed in a place where your business is going to operate. So we did do that. And, that's what I drove from as well, Concord. I usually drive from there for all these meetings. So the address has to be where your business is. You cannot have and even if you do, you need to pay taxes to both states. Because we just opened it, we have an idea of what the tax bracket. Then nobody, if you're operating a business here, North Carolina, the state of North Carolina, Scotland County, everybody has to get the benefit as well, right? Like nobody from anywhere can just open a business, pay tax, where they're living, but not where they are having the business. So I'm sure the tax system doesn't work like that.
I don't know if that's right.
Mr. Blue, what does this mean? One of the community benefits says improves public safety through permitted water main extension and fire suppression system. What is that?
Well, that's for the site, for the use that we would, we go through public water supply service and extend it out, making sure there's enough fire suppression there and, potable water accessibility for the site.
Okay, just additional revenue off of the.
Yeah, exactly. So the more, if you're running utility, you want more customers in there. So you're putting, you got a long-term capitalization for it.
Do you guys have a fire and emergency access plan, and are the roads wide enough
Correct.
and long enough for those?
Yeah, we would have to do that. You need to make sure that you've got a travel lane, that if you got any cul-de-sacs that is meeting fire code. North Carolina adopted the fire code officially a few years ago. So actually cul-de-sacs are wider. You need to make sure that you've got enough locations and that you've got adequate fire flow for either your pumper trucks, or if you've got haul, or enough pressure if you've got suppression systems on the site. And the fire marshal would do all the review on that and set the requirements.
Is it premature to approve this before all that? Somebody's taking a look at all these things you're talking about?
Yeah, I've done a preliminary analysis of all these things. I have not gotten into details on, the specifics of, okay, how many square feet of this or how many square feet, except in, you might say, general planning. So it may be 20% different here or 20% different there. This is based on my experience from 30 years of doing this.
What you're talking about affects the amount of usable land. as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I talked about, what are the access requirements if they did do anything in a certain adjacency, you've got a high tension line there. And there's a lot of different things. I mean, even the turning radius for different vehicles and you're backing up. I've worked with a few different RV parks, 5 different RV parks, and just the site layout itself is a little different. You've got to take into consideration that not everybody that goes into an RV park is an experienced RVer. There's a lot of chance for people to back into other people. And so the way you set things up, you've got to take that in consideration. So that may change. Again, as I understand it, you're able to set conditions on anything that they're asking for.
That's true.
I
So-
think it would take us 6 months to set the conditions.
So
It's ridiculous. I mean, this is so vague.
Is this your experience in other jurisdictions that, most of what you're describing is left to occur after the special use?
yeah, that was actually one of the things I asked. Depending upon the jurisdiction, you can have special use permits or a similar type of terminology, either go with the applicant or go with the land. So that was one of the questions I asked. So this would go with the land, as I understand it. And so whatever conditions you set is going to run in perpetuity with that land. And so,
That's true, but my question related to, from the standpoint of chronologically how things flow. Are
Yeah.
there other jurisdictions that require more specific information before the permit gets approved?
some do, some don't. If you're in the village of Pinehurst, absolutely. You're going to get way, way more scrutiny. Most counties, most rural areas, no, not at all. What you're asking for, you've basically got this level or less. It's a narrative description sometimes. And then you would put in there certain conditions and say, like you were talking about, certain setbacks, certain density. And then when the detailed plans are submitted to the county officials, to the state officials, you have to make sure that all of those are taken into consideration. Because normally what happens is the investors, they're going to look at a certain piece of property and they're going to say, okay, it's a business decision. I can only put so much money in up front because I'm rolling the dice. If I put all this money in and it's not an ordinance and this is based upon, a subjective view of what the facts are, they're going to say, I can only do so much before I have to go to another site.
And then, as I was mentioning, that we've done that a lot, at least on Richmond County, Scotland County, Wagram, different counties over there. And similar, all of them have similar requirements, submit for the SUP, give us a drawing, and, we've done an engineered drawing, this one, we did a rendered copy for, just for visibility appeal. And yeah, I mean, as Thomas says, many of them, is simple, as long as you're able to follow all the requirements of the ordinance, make sure that, you're not, it's not causing any hindrance to the community, and all the ordinance have been met based on findings of the fact, you're good. And that's what we've tried to do with that application as well.
Did you get your RV approval in Pinehurst?
I haven't done an RV park, but I worked on an RV park that changed. It was originally an RV park in Pinehurst. But I have worked on several other places. I was really surprised, frankly, the demand. I'm not an RVer, but the demand for RV parks is way more than I ever expected when I first worked on it.
So that Pinehurst actually approved one.
Years ago, there haven't been any, usually the price point for something in Pinehurst, you've got other land uses that you're going to invest in that area. Yeah. But there are in the county up there, absolutely. There's several up in the county that really have a high demand.
Let me ask you this right here, with the units being more towards the front of the property,
Mm-hmm.
once you guys go out there and do your assessments and things of that nature, what if it would be more feasible to put those in the back of the property and then have the park and rec building at the front of the property? Would that be feasible?
Yeah.
Or would that be?
It's whatever conditions you said, it may be feasible. My only concern is traffic across the high tension line. I've not talked with Duke about that,
Right.
so I don't know the provisions. Generally, vehicular traffic across a line like that is not a problem. They want a certain amount of setback, obviously. They don't want any hindrance in the operation. So you wouldn't put any vertical structures, hard structures, or anything in there.
Right.
But they're going to be the controlling entity about anything that's going across there.
What's the width of that right of way?
I don't remember what the width is. Do you remember what it is?
Width of the,
Width of the right of way for the high tension lines, for the high power lines.
I think we have it marked here. I think it's about 40 feet. No?
But you're
He's
saying-
confused.
You're saying they may want additional.
Yeah, we would have
The
to,
footprint of the easement, they may want.
well, generally you have a designated right of way, but sometimes there are provisions that if you have any vertical structures that outside that right of way, they have additional provisions. Now, that's rare, but there are some times that is the case.
So, is that something that should be addressed as one of the conditions of the permit?
Yeah, you could definitely put that in there, absolutely.
Yeah.
I can't, with so much gaslighting in the world today, and I'm not talking about just here, but I'm not excluding it. The size and proportions of things on here and the way that it's been presented, and this is future development, and then this other numbers come up and then they go away, and the saying that there's gonna be 24-hour security, well, by gosh, we'd have to require it. We'd have to know what kind of building is that gonna be, and where is it gonna be? And, as far as the enforcement on background checks and so forth that you say you're willing to do, we'll have to have that down as a condition.
Mm-hmm. And that's a requirement of the ordinance to do background check. Like if you look at the ordinance.
Well, the thing that I'm getting at is that is gonna be, you're saying you're just gonna do this as you can. You're not gonna be able to do that part as you can, because that is gonna have to be there before you can open.
Which part?
24 hours.
The 24-hour security, the security
Uh-huh.
building, and you're proposing rec centers and this and that. Well, that's a very vague thing. I can draw a circle and put rec thing on. We need details. We need to know that you're serious about it in a scale. You're somewhere in this, you were saying as far as your special use permit, December 15th. And then you'd start in January of 26 and finish in February of 26.
Mhm.
I don't think that's realistic.
Not anymore. This was going to be realistic if you were approved in November.
You think you could have gotten it done?
There's no.
I mean,
way.
not 51, and that was never the plan, right? The
No,
plan
no,
was
but I
to,
mean, you think you could have realistically gotten it done if it'd been approved in November?
we could have started it, yeah, because
Well,
we,
you have it written down here that, December 15th,
for,
special use permit decision, and then go right into January and February, we're gonna knock it out.
correct, because I'll tell you the timeline. So November was the planning board meeting, December 1st would have been the board of commissioners meeting, and start a couple of weeks after. And we had spoken with Nat about how much time does he need.
But these things he's doing are not gonna be easy to do.
So this would have been invalid, like, I mean, the soil analysis, I mean, permits and everything. So the thing is, once we get approved for SUP, you can start working on things at the same time. You know, you can start, because if we know we are going to be approved with some conditions, of course, Nat can go out there, he can start clearing some trees, start his grading work. Thomas can go out there, I mean, and John, the reason he's been excused is because we already started the property survey. You know, that's, I mean, we did this already.
The permitting process alone will probably not get completed in that. You're talking about DOT, and, sanitation
So-
permits.
So when I spoke to the EHS over here, they mentioned to me that on their end, once we have the soil analysis done and the septic engineering done, their permit timeline is like 20 days because it's not, you know, they're backed up with a lot of work, right? The only big time delay, as you said, is going to be the DOT, you know, but even they have not, when we spoke with them, they did not mention that, hey, you know, it's going to take us 3 months or something. So let's say December 15th, we get approved, December 1st, we get approved. That was the original timeline, right? We have until February, you know, or March, just to make sure that we got the DOT and they don't need a lot of information. All they need is this plan. And they have everything else. Like the way we do, they have what the neighborhood zoning is. They know where the property is. All they need to know is what are you going to do? And then they look at their analysis and take it from there.
I thought you said they would not do their consideration until all the interior things were located though, and those are.
No, they want a general layout, but it doesn't have to be a detailed construction set. They want, at least want a schematic layout. Where are you putting your instances? Where's the internal circulation? Because again, they want to see like, how are people turning in? How are they moving around? But they're not so concerned about, okay, is this 5 feet here or is this a 20-foot setback there or those types of internal things. It's just at the entrance, the way the traffic gets in and out. I can tell you the general timelines. The current backup right now, what would take the longest time, and this is purely based on DEQ staffing, is the application for water extension. They have very low staffing. They're very booked up, but that would not be the long pole with the tent. There's
What water extension are we talking about?
the county water into it, because that's actually a main extension. Yeah, you couldn't get by, as I see it, with just extension of services in there
Right.
because of the load demand. So you would need to do a main extension. Anytime you do a main extension, you're going to have to go through the public water supply section of DEQ for approvals. Erosion sedimentation control, and this, it would have a tagged on stormwater application and permit with it. You can do a fast track for that. So they have a requirement of a certain review time. It's basically a 30-day. You would do
Pay extra for that.
You do pay extra for that. That's right. And so you would do an initial meeting with them. And because of this development and because the land is relatively flat and it relatively slopes one way, it's relatively high infiltration soils. It's kind of in your favor for working with them. So you probably have about 2 weeks and then about another 30 days. Of course, there's some amount of design that goes along with it. Obviously, you got to get that. Total package for all of them, I would say the longest time for the permitting might be 3 months. But as he stated, you can do other things at the same time.
Right.
You can't do land disturbing activity. You can't do active grading, but you can do cutting and clearing. So the thing is, you can't do clearing and grubbing. You can't pull out the root balls and all that stuff. But you can fell the trees. You can do thinning of vegetation and a lot of that other stuff.
That's the
So
water extension you're talking about, the interior water extension.
yeah, interior water extension.
Roughly, how long is, is the distance gonna be on that? What would the cost roughly be?
Well,
Is that
you'd be
something that gets bid out, or how does that work?
Well, that'd be up to them. So it's not a public project. He could select somebody or he could put it out for bid.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's obviously complete with him and a private project. You would typically have a minimum 6-inch main. I can't imagine more than a 6-inch main. You might have 2-inch mains for your potable domestic and then a separate 6-inch main for your fire suppression. Fire suppression would probably be placed over for actual fire hydrants, but the fire marshal is going to tell that he's the authority having jurisdictions that's going to say, okay, based upon my ability to do this, based upon the fire code, I need to have this here, this here. And there's a certain analysis that's gonna have to go through there. You gotta do ISO analysis on what your demand is.
Will you be submitting all that information to the fire marshal?
Yeah, I would submit all that, but I would also need to know what their capacity is. So it's not just demand, I need to know what the water system capacity is for that area. From what I looked at, there's more than enough capacity that was sized up for industrial commercial use in the area. And this is relatively light compared to that. But again, all those, I'm preparing designs, I'm preparing analysis, and I'm submitting, but all the different regulatory agencies are going to review that individually. So they're going to have to go through this process, this process, this process. And I priced some of that when we started looking at the properties.
And Mr. Shaw has probably already factored in the cost of that water extension.
Yes, that's why, the investment is going to be big, for a project of this size. And at the same time, I'm working with everybody within the county to make sure that we utilize resources from within the county, right? Like, when it comes to property, realtors, attorneys, even for this, we'll need at least 2 full-time on-site support. In addition to all of that, we'll be doing weekly maintenance. There's going to be landscaping, grass cutting,
Do we have anybody
cleanups.
that puts water line extensions in the county?
I'm sorry?
Is there anybody in Scotland County that will put in a water line?
Yeah, Brian, right? I think I spoke with someone named Brian from the Scotland County. He mentioned that, from the property line, if you have water connected to the property, it's good. After that, we can work with him to ensure he can provide us with details on how to extend it to wherever you need it.
You've got your public side and private side. So you've got your county system and that's your water main extension out.
Right.
But basically you probably put a master meter at the edge of the right of way, and then you're going to do sub metering from the inside. That's typically how you would have an RV park set up.
Yeah, so there's somebody here in Scotland County that does water line extensions.
I don't know offhand, but I know I've seen them come through on bids for utility contracts for, Moore and League and Public Works Commission.
You speak about stormwater and you're gonna have a fair number of streets and where you don't have streets, you're gonna have about 50% of it is gonna be impervious
Mhm.
RVs.
Yeah, and you need to make
So
sure that
runoff is gonna be a huge thing when you do have heavy rain.
Mhm.
And there again, where you've got it set up for your septic tanks, that's exactly gonna be the downhill area that surface water is going to run to challenge that process as well with the septic area.
well, I would divert it. I mean, a simple channel burn system would be pretty well easily
Well, I
implemented.
mean,
and
you
diverted.
know, the deal is that if you're even putting in a filling station, you've got to have reservoirs for retention reservoirs. And I don't know, of course, with parking lots and buildings, that's totally impervious, but they do have to have those reservoirs. This is not totally, but it's gonna be about 50%. Now, there again, that is if they're paved roads, which we've got no indication of whether it's gonna be sand, gravel, pavement, concrete. We're seeing pictures of the other ones that show concrete, but we don't have that here. And of course, that would be, I think, a conditional use that we would have to consider, or a condition in the permit. And, it may drain well, but when it's packed, a dirt road gets to be a mess in a hurry. So you'd have all that kind of stuff to consider. And as I say, it's gonna take a fair amount of time to come up with conditions to even begin to approve a conditional use.
If you wanted to include that pre-development hydrology and post-development hydrology had to match, I could easily engineer and design a system for that. But basically, there's no more runoff in either volume or rate post-development than pre-development. And that far exceeds what the requirements are now.
So I guess what I'm gleaning from what you're saying is that the type of roads that are put in, the material that's used on it might affect the run. Is that accurate?
Well, actually, I think
Or not?
that is possible, but in general, anytime that you put down a road and you hard pack it, it's effectively asphalt or concrete, as
It's
far as
impervious.
infiltration into the ground.
If it's crushing wrong.
Yeah, because what happens is you get angular materials in there and it gets into fines, and that effectively seals off the surface. So when you first get a rainfall, it may look like it really wets up, but then immediately it seals off the top and it runs over to the side. So as far as runoff, I mean, if you could put pavers in there and have sand fill, and I have done that sometimes, but that's high maintenance, and generally it's better to try to have infiltration areas, low depressions, as close to where the rain falls as possible. So you mimic what happens when your natural rain falls on the ground. And so dispersing that across the site is what I would recommend for the design, and then obviously deflecting it away from the on-site wastewater system, which is a permit requirement regardless if you're putting on-site wastewater systems.
What are they projecting to use for the roads?
It's gravel. I think we mentioned that last time as well.
Gravel?
Yes, it's going to be gravel. We're consistent with that. So one thing that I want to, bring up, we've been having great discussions, right? But again, I don't want us to be carried away with the idea that we're going to have 51, right? As Thomas mentioned, it is possible that when we do our analysis, it might only come down to 25, right? Or even if we do 51, we are talking about a 5-year timeline, right? Because when I start this now I'm looking at February, right? Because now I have the Board of Commissioners meeting again. When I start in February, in a month, the plan is only to have 10, right? Like we have another RV park in the city. I think it's called the Magnolia RV Park. That was the owner who was here last time. They don't have any of these conditions because they started off with 10 RV sites, right? Because if this plan was only for 10, we know that everything is going to run smooth, no issues, proper, occupancy is going to be 80-90%, no issues at all. Only when we start thinking about more and more sites, we have all these questions, right? Which is good, questions are good and we have all the answers, right? But those questions are also only going to be applicable like 5 years from now or 6 years from now when we are at max capacity. And that's also a less probable option if it doesn't work out in that way. As I said, this 51 was a number we came up with just to make sure that we don't need to come back here every 6 months. Like, hey, I did 10, now I need approval for a couple of more. I don't want to come back after 1 year, like, hey, I need to put 5 more, So that's why we came with this number right here. And yeah, I mean, it's possible that, 3 months from now, you would only see 10 or 15 that I have firstly built. Once they get fully occupied, I'm going to probably put 5 more, slowly scale. And that's what many RV park owners does. And that's what even another community member we had last week, right? A couple of weeks back, that's what even he's doing, right? And we are doing all these approaches from what we see, right? That's how different RV park owners operate. That's how they do it because all these are valid concerns, right? And nobody wants to overwhelm anybody with putting 51 on day one, right? And even we don't know so much that I can confidently say that, hey, all the 51 are going to be fully booked, right? It's the signals are hinting that there is demand, right? Demand for 10, of course. Demand for 20, sure. But as we keep going more and more, your occupancy rate is not going to be 100% anymore. It is going to be variable, right? But we want to utilize the space we have. We want to utilize the utilities we get, and that's what we are proposing over here. So,
when whatever you put as the conditions and the capacity, the designs would need to take into account maximum build out. So if I'm doing a water extension, I'm going to design it and I have to design it for maximum density. Same thing for the stormwater. Let's say it ends up they put in 25 pads as opposed to 51. I still have to design it for maximum intensity of expected use. And that's how the permits would be granted.
Well,
is the absolute
now,
maximum.
what's the maximum you would design for here on this project?
Whatever is approved. So whatever you would approve and with conditions, that's what I would have to design for.
and I think that even you're going through some upgrade projects, right, in nearby county for RV park.
Yeah, I've worked on several RV parks and we mostly do septic installs, but we do some grading also. And I can speak a little bit to the parks that we've worked on. I mean, most of them are very nice parks. I mean, they're not dumps. I mean, the guys put sod down between the units and, they have
Where are these located?
Richmond County. And I've been surprised, like Thomas said, over the years about the demand. We live out in the country and there's a park near our place that was started when I was a teenager. I mean, before there was even GPS, and people would come by our house and like slide the window open asking how to get to this park. And everybody in our community was just like you know, this is the craziest thing we've ever seen. And, you know, 40 years later, they're still there. And they've probably got 250 sites in that. I mean, it's just a massive park, and it's been a good thing for our community. I mean, it's good people, and
You're from Richmond County?
yes, sir. And
You're talking about Sycamore Lodge.
yes, sir. And and Thomas is, I may be high on that number, but I mean, there's a pile of spots.
Is that up on Sycamore?
Yeah,
Road?
Sycamore Lane.
Yeah.
Up
Yeah.
in-
It's a travel lodge. It's a very nice.
County.
I've done them in Harnett County and in Cumberland County most recently. Fort Bragg has expanded it. They've got them over at the skeet shooting down at the gun range part, down at the lower section, then up at Smith Lake Rec Center. Actually, the expansion was putting a whole new leach field system up there for expansion with bathhouses and more pads up there. So it's kind of like every walk of life. Again, I'm not an RVer, so it was very surprising to me, just the overall demand and the variety of usage.
And most of the parts that we have worked in, I mean, a majority of these people, I mean, they come with RVs that are almost as long as this wall. I mean, they're like probably $80,000 or $90,000 RVs,
Oh, more
you
than
know, and I mean, you just don't have riffraff, you know, coming in with a $100,000 RV to park. And the latest one we worked on, the guy did 10 spots initially, and they filled up the first day he opened. You know, the first day he opened, they were full, and he was turning people away. And we just finished an expansion, a septic system expansion, and those are all full within the last 30 days. And I mean, they're just, from my observation, there does really seem to be a demand. And in their part, they've got people that are construction workers. They have people that are traveling to the beach that are looking for a place to overnight or a couple of days. And as Thomas said, I'm not an RVer either, but it's like, there's just a demand for that. There really is. And the part, like I said, the parts that we've worked on and been affiliated with are, you know, relatively nice places, and they don't seem to attract a bad quality of people. Certainly the one that I'm most familiar with, the Sycamore, I mean, like I said, they've been there over 30 years, and I've never known them to have any issue in our community, or you know, I've never heard anyone, never seen anything to allude to anything, you know, negative going on there. And it's my experiences with it have just been positive from a community standpoint and a construction standpoint.
Are you aware of anybody in Scotland County that will do a water line extension that he's talking about?
Well, I think I'm not personally aware of any, but I think you can do that with a plumber license or a private, with a utility contractor's license. I know the
It'd
parts.
be a utility, you'd have to be a utility or unclassified to be putting in an extension.
The last part that we worked on, they connected the county water and the plumbing, which they didn't run a main, but they just tapped onto the county water, and it was the plumbing contractor who, you know, installed the line and you know, but I can't speak really to any of the, as far as, you know, water mains and stuff, but
So whenever, I guess you get the final of how many, if they can't do the 51, then whatever you're allowed to do, then you will bring the information back to Brooke, or how would that work?
Yeah, so there would be requirements for, I think it's 7 different governmental entities that would have to give approval. You've got 2 in DEQ. See, 2 in DEQ, you've got DE, you got DOT, you got the local fire marshal, you've got building and inspections. I'm not sure how the process would go in special use permits for planning and zoning approval. So let's see, that's 5. It seems like I'm leaving one
You got 8
out.
on your
Yeah,
list that you
so,
submitted.
okay, then I've already got them listed.
Yeah.
There's several.
But one of them is us.
Well, usually what happens if you're doing a development project, the permitting for a site for your horizontal is way more involved than the building. The building is almost a one-stop shop. You've got the buildings inspections, plus the fire marshal gives input on that. So you can pretty well get that through one entity. But when you're doing the site planning, you've got all sorts of different entities that are looking at it. And sometimes you have conflicting and overlapping requirements. So somebody say, well, you've got to have this amount of sunback, or they may say, you've got to have all these trees here. And you say, well, yeah, but I'm putting utility lines there. I can't have those trees over my utility lines. They say, well, then you've got to work something out. So there's conflicts in the site planning that you just don't get into when you're doing, you might say, building code stuff.
Does anybody have any more discussions or questions?
One thing that I would like to mention is that at our last meeting, we had about a half dozen people from the adjacent area that were against this. And I don't want us to forget that. They are not here tonight, but I was dumbfounded to see this application come to us again.
Yeah, so the couple of reasons to that, right? So definitely there was some public, but it's important to understand, did they have a conflict of interest as well, right? Like, from a RV park owner standpoint, if he's an owner already, if they don't want, the way we are able to provide you evidence, like we are not going to, it's a low impact project, it's going to do X, Y, and Z things, they need to come up with that as well, right? Like, and an RV park owner is going to say, yeah, sure, I don't want another RV park because it's direct competition to them. But I mean, it's a fair world for everybody, right? Like, if you have an RV park, and especially if you're expanding it, you cannot say that I don't want another RV park, right? And the second one, there was an owner, Mr. Campbell, who owns the property behind. He's going to probably have to spend almost $10,000 to clear all the junk if he end up buying this parcel. He doesn't want that either, So we are working with Debbie right here to talk to him, like, hey, as mentioned that there was a lot of junk on the parcel that he needs to remove. It's going to cost him money to do that. It's already a junk. Now you have to pay to move the junk. No owner is going to do one. So he's going to come and say, I have issues with septic, blah, blah. But it's not true. We got the licensed engineer over here, and there's a septic installer. That's the reason we got them, right? People are driving, taking time out to explain to these issues are not issues, right? I'm providing evidence to the planning board over here and the public, if they were here, that, hey, these issues shouldn't be an issue anymore. Last time we were not prepared to answer these questions. We tried to, but now, there are licensed people who are even more knowledgeable than I am to talk about these things, right? And the third thing is, and I think that was brought up in the Board of Commissioners meeting, people can have concerns, right? But the most important is the people who are adjacent or abutting property, right? If they don't have a concern, any public can come, this is we at the Board of Commissioners, a quasi-judicial hearing. They try to come in over there as well. But I think, county attorney, he mentioned that if you're abutting and adjacent, if you're not, you cannot speak
Oh,
up.
I think you can. I think you absolutely can.
The
You
adjacent
said
property
what's
owners,
fair,
yeah, they have.
what's
standards.
fair is fair. You may be talking about you're right here.
Mhm.
But if you're 2 doors down, you don't count. We live in Scotland County. You live somewhere else.
Mhm.
These are our neighbors.
Correct. I
And if
agree.
we don't want you to do that to us, we're not gonna let you do that to them.
100% agreed, and we don't want that either, right? Like, we want to help, we want to do something good for the community as well, right? It's okay, someone
This
can
is
have
100 times better than what's there now.
But
exactly.
that's not hurting anything.
This is not going to hurt either. This is going to be a low impact project. We are going to make sure that it's going to help the community. It's going to bring money to the community. It's going to employ people. It's going to employ businesses. It's just going to be more and more ripple effect. Just one person or another person not liking it cannot. We shouldn't make a decision that can impact 10 other businesses who can get a lot of, business out of it, right? Like that's as people, we have to think about that as well. Like if there's a food line, Walmart is not going to think like, hey, I cannot come open over here because there's a food line already. So, and there is an RV park already, right? I don't think community has had a problem with that. I think they like that RV park as well. It is always, full. They're trying to expand as well. That's a good sign. Like, it's not like county is opposed to it, or it's not like it's led to more crimes. And we can talk about, experiences that, in fact, where you have an RV park, sometimes the crime rates go down. Because
Bro, let me ask you a question. As far as with everything that they've submitted, does it meet our ordinances from what they needed to submit and what they have submitted as far as presentation and everything they submitted? Does it meet everything that's with our ordinance, minus with us putting special uses on it?
yes.
Well, you don't know anything about the septic disposal when the health department hasn't examined the property. You don't have the
They
track.
have
We
a
don't.
consent
Driveway permit.
from the landowner to get that.
Right, yeah,
Um,
but I'm just saying that's part of what's required. And of course,
Do they have the consent to do that?
yes, it's in your packet,
Mr.
that-
Watkins
from the
signed.
landowner.
So the environmental health, they could just disapprove, and they would disapprove the permit if it came back that what we found on the site didn't meet 51, it only meet 20 or 30 or what have you.
Yeah,
They would
that's
say, well,
one of
that's-
the conditions.
Yeah.
Correct, that's one of the conditions we can put. because
No,
special-
it's, we don't put it in there, it's there.
Yeah, it's already
It's
there.
already there.
Yeah, but I mean, we would need to add other conditions for him to say that we're gonna have 24-hour security. Well, that's great if we don't make that a condition. If he's gonna have screening, what kind of screening, what size of screening? Where is the screening? And all that type of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that we need to consider in that. And
So the
spacing
city
on it.
already has that for the other RV park that's in the city?
I have nothing to do with that, I don't know.
Yes, the
But
security.
they're before the county, they're not before the city.
The security, background verification, all of that is part of the ordinance already that we will be required to do. If we don't, we'll be in violation and we don't want that, especially as a new.
And so I don't think it has to be in detail. They just have to say that they're gonna provide it. It doesn't have to be in detail,
What's
so that's not part.
what the commissioners approve, I guarantee.
Right, that's part of the ordinance. The ordinance doesn't say it has to be in detail.
The
So,
thing that gets
We gotta
me,
go, you gotta go by what your ordinance say. The ordinance doesn't say it has to be broken down into detail.
but
It has to
we
be
do,
provided.
we do set the conditions.
Right, you can set the conditions.
And
We
I think
can set the
on
conditions.
so many of for one example, the solar panel farms, they say they're screening.
Yeah.
And they use a combination of either Leyland cypress, green giant arborvitae, wax myrtle. It's hot and dry, they're dead in a damn post, excuse me. They're dead.
Well, I would not put Leland cypress in,
Of course not.
or green giant. I mean, they're not acclimated to the area and they're poor choices. But wax myrtle, you probably get no better choice.
But if they're not maintained, and again, you're talking about it's gonna be the county's responsibility to come back and say, hey, you've got these to replace or review, because so many of these places, the stuff is planted, but it doesn't survive.
Brooke, is there a requirement they have 24-hour security in our ordinance?
This is what he proposed.
I know that, but I just wondered, is that in our ordinance?
I'm sure I've read that there is a requirement to ensure that there is security. I've seen that, yeah. Somewhere in the ordinance, there is at least a call out that you have to provide security. The way there is
It says you have a manager on duty.
exactly, manager on duty.
That's not the same thing.
Right, so around that, no. Around that, there is something to do background verification, there is a call out for that. And I think there's a call out for security as well on site.
Well, I'm sure that big burden to you if they impose that as a condition.
but we gotta do it anyways. We wanna make sure we don't have any random people, on our property as well, right? So,
Right.
Yeah, manager and security would be two different things, but I don't know, that was probably a misnomer on my part, but manager is what I think they mentioned. But that's something that will be, again, another expense, and they've got, and the other thing too with that, does that mean that there's somebody living there that's on-call manager?
correct. That's what we said, we'll have two on-site support.
Well, you're talking about security as opposed to a manager.
Well,
That's the difference.
24
I don't
hours,
know what
24 hours
difference
security
is.
could be security cameras.
Yeah, that's the plan.
24 hour security could be, I mean,
Gated
it doesn't have to be
community.
a person.
Yeah,
well, that's what I'm,
A gated community.
that's what I'm saying, is those details, I think, they're not very clear at this point.
so I have provided one pager highlight. There's a document called it should be printed out. It's called one pager highlight, and that has all the security measures that we'll be taking in. So,
This question actually I have. So as I understand it, y'all would specify the conditions for what you think it needs to be required. And then that goes to the Board of Commissioners, and then they say, yes, this is what we're gonna take a recommendation from the planning board and say, we're going to do that. Or they could have additional requirements as
Right.
well that the Board of Commissioners could implement as well.
Right.
They could delete or add.
That's it.
In development, camping areas, tenant will be on site 24 hours a day while campground is open for business.
Which one is that now?
That's in Article 11.17.5. It's on page 11-13.
Are you talking about the manager?
Yeah, manager on duty.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about that.
And I guess I'd say, well, what are his responsibilities? 'Cause
But now zoning or inspections do not police that. That's not something that we,
You're not gonna police anything, are you?
no,
Because you don't have an inspection, I mean,
we don't have code
enforcement
enforcement. Mm-mm.
Well, see, that is part of what concerns me, because I mean, there's these same places that, they're saying there's 90 days according to the deal here.
Could be checked by computers.
I doubt it. I know there are people that stay in these things for years.
And our ordinance is, what is it, 60 days?
60 days.
And all they have to do is leave for a weekend and then come back.
and that's the rotation that we were proposing
And
last time as well.
Everything is in a computer. When I make reservations to go stay somewhere, it's all in a computer. Tells you how long I'm staying, how much I'm paying, everything. And that, if they need to go check their computer systems, and they just do that.
Now, this says the application for a special use permit shall contain an emergency evacuation plan. Is that something you submitted or
Think, no.
it's under? What that number is, it's on page 11-13. Right here. Emergency.
What letter?
Application for a special.
11, that's good.
Shall contain an
Yeah, I got the
emergency
page.
evacuation plan.
Oh,
It's under, N, no, I'm sorry, O, Phil.
So Josh, did you submit an emergency evacuation plan?
No, not that I'm aware of for this one, no.
So,
I mean, the emergency evacuation plan is just really a meter point in terms of, in case of emergency. So you can put a circle on, that this is my meter point. That's what it is. It's a, any county building might have like, hey, because it's not a lot of structures or anything, right? Like,
I understand that, I
Yeah.
understand.
no, I'm just trying, it's not
I
a big.
understand. But, to move forward and to prolong the time. I mean, I think it's a good idea, but I think the board has some issues with putting some conditions on it.
Mhm.
What conditions? I mean, that's something that has to be talked about.
Leave that to the board of commissioners if you want to.
Could be. So we won't have to do the conditions if we.
I'm sure they'll be happy to have your recommendations. but you
I'm
don't have
sure,
to.
I'm sure they will, but at the same time, I don't know, there's a good chance that it'll be a conditional use with no conditions.
If
On
we
the
don't
county
send them,
commission.
But it's like any conditions won't be enforced.
because we
There's
won't
no
know.
enforcement, so what's the point of putting conditions
Conditions
on?
on-
Because nobody's checking the condition. And nobody's following up on any of the conditions.
That's one good reason we don't need it.
I mean, it's like if we put all these conditions on there and he does it, we have no code enforcement officer to go around and say they're doing what we said.
Do you have performance bonding?
I mean,
It's not a bad idea, we could do that.
I mean, typically on projects where there's a concern about that, performance bonding is an option. And it may not be there are other similar things beyond a quote unquote performance bond that you have a contractor executing a contract to put in so many feet of water line per se, as we were talking about. But effectively, it's the same condition that you're effectively bonding the project for performance. And that could be, 12 months, 6 months, 24 months, different times for something like that. Because it seems like some of the things are all the wax myrtle's gonna die? Or, do you have this in place and once it's in place? Because you're gonna have to put that expense in up front. You're gonna have to put higher expense up front to do your initial base development. Putting in your basic infrastructure is going to be an upfront cost. And then as you expand out, you're gonna have lower development costs because of that upfront cost.
So much of what I'm hearing, it is, it's difficult to know whether this is real or if it's Memorex when the sizes, this parcel is future development one day and it's green space the next day and the numbers move. And your landscape design or your rendered drawing here it's not to scale and your plant sizes that looks great, but that's not what it's going to be. And the thing is, I grew landscape trees and bushes, landscape plants for 35 years. I did landscaping. My college professor developed the Leyland cypress. I know what wax myrtle is, and I've seen these go in time after time after time. In 6 months, you've got a bunch of switches with no leaves on them. So
I
I
think
know.
this drawing is the larger scale of what they wanted. Because once they go in, like he said, they may not even be able to do 51. They may be able to do 20, 25. I think this was just a general drawing or general to present to us to say, hey, this is what we want to do. This is what we are looking to do. But we don't even know if we're going to be able to do 51. And it's going to change drastically if they can't do 51, if they have to reduce the amount that they're able to do.
Well, one thing that you've got in here, it's going to be human nature to never put the car in reverse. But these are all dead end streets, and human nature is going to be, no, you just go under the utility easement, hit the next street and make your circle. There's not a traffic flow in there.
Yeah, a detailed design for layout with turn radius and turnaround has not been done for that site.
Yeah.
Obviously not. I
And-
mean, but see, that's the type of stuff that I think would make a difference.
No, but this is true to scale, right? Like, I mean, the requirement for the ordinance is a pen and paper sketch, right? We've gone above and beyond to do a engineered, civil, licensed, to-scale drawing, right? And to add to that, as you were saying, you know, people want convenience, right? So you can see in both these renders, we have provided driveway on the front and on the back. So people can, you know, we were talking about pull in, you know, two-way last time. So we've kept all of the conveniences in mind. And as you were saying, you know, people are lazy sometimes, right? They want to make sure that, you know, they can drive. So that's why we have provided driveway around the park as well. And every stretch away, there is a driveway. So
But
anyone,
each one of those driveways are dead end.
it's not dead end, there's a utility easement. So you can still go from under. The only thing is you cannot have a vertical structure under the utility easement. You can go right to it.
It's not shown here. That's the very thing I say, and it was just gonna be,
I mean, there is a driveway shown over here as well, under the utility easement over here. And we are shown a utility easement right here, so you can still go. Like, there is a driveway under the utility easement right here and all the way over here as well. So even from here, you can still go. It's just a utility easement.
You just
It's
gotta put a building right there.
exactly, it's a high tension wire in the, like, 50 feet above ground.
Utility people gotta come, they're gonna be able to drive through that easement.
Yes.
You can
yes.
drive across the easement,
Yeah,
you
I know
just
that.
can't.
You can't
Right.
put a building.
Exactly.
I know this.
but there is no circular drives as you're saying on this map.
Each roadway has an opening, each lane has an opening, so they can go in from the north side, the south side, and go in on either side, on the south side. They're not dead ends.
Correct.
You see when they're not,
No, I don't
they're not
see.
dead ends.
Well, there's no color showing that that's the case. Now, on the black and white, it might even, no, the black and white, they just stop.
You can,
You ever camped before?
No, I
John.
haven't.
Okay, that's why you can't see it, because when you go in and you can park, you've got different sizes of lots, you got pull-throughs, you got where you can back into them, but according to that map, you can pull through and
And
get
drop
in
off
and out
pull
on each,
Yeah.
on each road.
let me show you a bit. So, right here, over here as well, do you see this driveway over here? Similarly, there is one right here. Do you see these gray bits? The trees are covering it. But this is that gray, you see this gray over here? That's that driveway, it's under the trees over here, similar to what we have done over here. This is what we've
You've
done
got
over
a
here as well.
driveway down both sides of
Yes.
the,
Yes.
easement.
And yeah, exactly. This
This
is a,
doesn't show it. That side it does.
Yes.
You're.
so because there is a utility easement,
Turn on
it's
the lamp light.
no, it's because of the utility easement, it's over it, but the similar thing that's why we're trying to show it over here is the same over here.
It doesn't show it.
Right, because we have to show the utility easement over it. It's covering it. It's a layer, right? That's how drawings are done.
No, that's not the way drawings are done. I know drawings.
I mean, some drawings, it's not an incorrect illustration.
Cause you got roads on where the septic area, you have roads on both sides of that, right?
Railroad
Correct,
drawings.
yes.
Yeah. I mean, you can, if you look at it, you can see it.
It's
And the trees are
it's
just
covering
right there, and
it. Yep.
utility easement is covering the
Yeah,
road.
But now this black and white, the pen and ink one, there is no, he's leading you to believe on that colored one that there's a drive on each side along parallel to the.
You can see it, it's, the trees are covering it. You see, okay, you see the
Well,
road
look
right here?
Look
You
on
see the
the,
road right here? That's a road, but you have the trees right there and the easement covering the road. The roads go all the way around. If
It
you
does.
look at the roads on those sides where the plots are at, and then the road is going all the way around the septic side. And then you got a road on each side of the septic area.
Well, you know, the truth of the matter, Daniel, you'd be able to drive through the trees to get to the road if it was there the way it's showing them planted.
This is gonna change anyway, according to Mr.
Yeah.
Right. 'Cause
Yeah.
they gotta go out there and look.
And again, for the future development, as I said last time, because it created some confusion and the plan was clear that we are not going to build more than 51, that's just going to be a park area or whatever it is, or it's going to be utilized for septic or whatever. And that's still the case. You know, no information has changed. You know, I don't want anybody to feel like things have changed from the last time we met, right? And as we're saying, you can cap to 51 if you want, and they're going to be totally okay with it. And even that might change, right? After we do the analysis, it might come down to, as you're saying, only 25 is possible. So it's not like, oh, 2 years from now or 5 years from now, I'm going to be like, hey, I want to build another 100 RV site in this. You can shut it down. I cannot do anything anyways at that point. You can be like, hey, no, you only said 51 and you're not going to do more than that. If it comes to that, though I'm saying it's not going to come to that.
Mr. Blue, is there anything related to this railroad that requires any sort of special consideration?
No, DOT usually has, it's a requirement for traffic safety, for speed and visibility, or any type of distractions as you're getting your crossings. That's really the
That'll
thing.
be the entity that will
Or
control
what
that.
about,
DOT, I mean, obviously, you got to stay outside the railroad right of way, but that's standard anytime.
I guess I was wondering too, as far as security or setbacks from that for adjacent development. It's a lot of questions on that.
So does the railroad actually adjoin, or the right of way for the railroad actually constitute one of the boundaries on this property?
No, it's outside the boundary.
It's outside the boundary?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the plat looked like.
It doesn't appear to be, but I couldn't ask that. Is it, does this
I try to
property
remember the
adjacent
plat. I can't remember
as a
how
real
far over it
property,
is or not.
know?
So I don't think we've actually got the survey plat itself.
She's got it.
Yeah. So this is,
Correct. That's the property line right here.
yeah, so basically it is, I don't know if it's right on it. It looks like it's almost right on it, but it's a little off of it.
And in addition to that, right, we will be, if you look at a drawing, our setbacks are like 50 feet from that railroad, right? And
You said 40 earlier, I thought.
I mean, 40 feet, 50, I mean, with the driveway, But the point to remember is like, it's meeting the ordinance, and in addition to that, we are giving more buffers, plus landscaping, fencing, just for everybody, because at the end, people are going to be parking, right? Nobody wants any disturbances and things like that. So, yep, that's that.
I've been looking up utility contractors, could you?
I was just curious.
I mean, there are tons of contractors that do mechanical, electrical, and plumbing and everything. And I'm sure that I know at least two, but I don't know
Well,
if
we
they're
just
still
let
doing.
bids on the North Turnpike,
Yeah.
water extension, and we had 4, none of which were local. So I didn't know, I mean, that might have been a too big of a project for them, but.
Well, like, yeah, a lot of times, or they may just have too much work.
Now, let me ask you this, with the property, the housing that's across the street, that's in front of the railroad, right?
I have
What-
no idea where the
that-
house
that
is.
house
Yes,
that's
it's
across the
not,
street.
yeah.
So
Right
that-
across the street from it is where the old Carter lumber used to be.
Okay.
It's just an empty vacant building.
Yeah, I have
But
no
you've
idea where the
got-
house is. I've never seen that house.
And the
You've got
house is,
within
if you're
couple hundred
coming down
yards.
Highland Road, you're gonna turn to the right and go down a dirt road
the house
way
like that.
before you get to this property, yes.
Mr. Brigman last time said he lived right across from the site.
No, right?
That's
Right
exactly,
across from
that's
the
the house
site
we're talking about. That's the
is
house.
Carter lumber.
No,
But that's not across, there's no house
I
across the
think
street.
I think it's close in there, but there are, you act like there's nobody out there, but there are people,
Oh, I
there
know.
are lots of people out
Yeah,
there that are.
A mile
And
from,
the thing
Further
about
down
it
the
is,
road, there are houses, yes.
off the road and adjacent to the road. Harry Malloy Road is just right down there, and there's lots of them down there.
But it doesn't adjoin this, I mean,
Oh, it
it is.
doesn't adjoin it, so they're
Mr.
still
Mr.
affected by
Brigman
the
doesn't join
neighborhood.
it.
his
Mr.
house,
Brigman is not directly across the road then.
he's
That's
across
what
from
he
the
said last
railroad.
time I
When you
did.
cross the railroad and
You
make that
turn to
right,
the right
it's
before
back
you
up
get to
on
this
that
property.
road. So you gotta cross the railroad track. As soon as you cross the railroad track,
His
you're gonna
property
make a
that
right hand
touches
turn.
No.
No.
yeah, there were no property, there is no property on the north, south, east, west direction of this property line. There are no houses, right? If you go through the Highland Road, as Ms. Debbie was saying, that it's on that, go down the road, take a left, you might see some housing community. and the only house, I think, as you were saying, is on the other side. But
You don't have to go that far.
The house, right here, the house that's on the, yeah, it's right there. That house that's on the, how far is the closest house down Highland Road?
Well, there you've got a house right
Right there,
there
right there.
adjacent
Yeah,
to,
right there.
you've got one or two adjacent to that property there on the left, adjacent to, Carter Lumber, aren't you?
In the opposite direction?
Opposite side of, Harry Malloy Road, or is it Highland Road?
It's right there in the woods on that dirt road
Right
to
here?
the left. No, there's no,
this one.
that's the house they're gonna tear down.
Yep.
But that's the house that's
Is
right
this a
there
house?
on
I
that
don't
dirt
think that's a
road.
house.
Yeah,
All right, come down here, come down below it, you've got houses.
no, that's the house they're gonna tear down.
No, it's on the other side of the road. Where's Harry?
That's
This
The
is
Carter.
the
Lloyd
house that
Road's
they're
way
gonna
on
tear
down,
down.
That's
down
the house they're gonna
further.
tear down.
You gotta go way on down to get to Harry Malloy.
Not way down.
Yeah.
It's right there.
When you look at the houses there, they're just right in
And
the
how-
neighborhood.
They're really far away from
A half
that.
mile? That's not far.
So from here to
To
here.
down there.
Where's Bradley Brigham's house, Brooke? You know?
He's up there on the, edge
You
of.
go up, go back up and go past where Carter Lumber was at. They're on that dirt road right there to the
Right here?
left. If you're coming from
Right here?
74, yeah, right there.
You turn it.
Bradley Brigden.
Yeah,
It's right
that's-
here.
Yeah, in that dirt road.
So is he? does
All
that
right,
mean
just
he-
on the other side of, the building company, there's small lots in there. I think there are houses in there, aren't there?
Right here?
Come down. Come down the other side of old, building supply.
To right where the little square is at.
Right here?
And no,
No,
to the left.
up, go back up.
Go to the left. Right there, go, right
There
there.
you
Go
go.
up where them little red blocks
Go
at.
up- Go up 1 o'clock direction.
Oh. Well. Hold on, people.
But I don't think it's right in front of the property. Right there where them two little blocks at.
Okay, now go where?
To the left. There's
You see?
like two little
No, no,
blocks
take your
beside
arrow.
Carter Lumber, where all those buildings are at.
Right here?
No.
I'm talking the side road and get
here.
lost in a paper
What is
sack.
Are there houses right there?
Right here. This is Ruby Hatcher.
But they can't even see nothing because it's so wooded right there. You have to go down a dirt road and you
This
gotta go
is
through
a-
woods.
But they're
You can't
still gonna be
This is a
adjacent to
single
it.
family home.
I don't know if nobody stays there. I think that house is vacant.
But on down toward,
But see that,
Harry Malloy.
this, where I'm at is in the city.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because R20 at the bottom, R20 MHA,
Yeah, that's-
R20 is in the
That's
city,
20
that's not my
city.
zone.
That's city zone.
So that far, I mean, that close, it's.
Well, where does
Not
the
even
zoning change from city to county?
Your purple line is your ETJ line.
So you had Carter Lumber that was there before. You got a solar farm that's there.
So it runs down Highland Road
So
then.
all of this that is in color is your city zoning.
So he's just adjacent to it.
Do you know where Miss Helen Livingston's property is? Because she was at the commissioners meeting but did not speak. Because we didn't get that far.
I can look and see if I wrote her a letter.
You did.
I did. Let me get her address. I don't know exactly where she's staying.
I think you had her name attached to your initials.
You got a solar farm in Carter Lumber.
Helen Livingston,
She said,
311 Montrose Lane.
Well, that's, she lives there, but she has property that adjoins this apparently. You need her number because it's on the thing you sent out. The tax number.
Right here, what I have highlighted is Helen Livingston.
So it's just
She
open
doesn't
field,
live there.
it's just property
She's the property owner.
owner, yeah.
Mhm.
Does it join this piece or can you tell?
It does, it's right beside it. The piece we are proposing is right here,
Uh-huh.
and Miss Helen's property is right here.
So it touches it.
On the other side.
So hers is beside Carter Lumber.
I think it goes all the way to the opposite side as well.
So hers is right beside it. His is the one that's proposing the special use is right here.
Oh, and hers is right beside
Hers is, in the blue.
Blue. Okay, so it's both beside and across the street.
We're putting that,
But she doesn't live there, right?
No, it's just a
No,
farmland.
So the
if
farmland.
you put an
This
RV
is
park
vacant.
next to her property, would that devalue her property or do it add value?
I think it's gonna add value.
It would definitely affect the price of it, and I doubt it would.
But this is also city. This is
Hers-
R20 zoning.
Yeah, hers is city.
Hers is in the city.
Yeah, but she still joins it. She'll be able to speak at the commissioner meeting.
Is she across the road, across Highland Road?
It's
from
on
this?
both sides. It's
Well,
split,
some of it's in the city and some of it's out of the city.
But
Well, what
it's
is-
in the ETJ of the city, so the,
All of it's
both
in the city.
parcels is in the city
She
zoning.
gets to speak.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so is somebody, I mean, are you guys gonna make a recommendation to put special, conditions on it? Or what recommendation are you gonna make, or what?
So you'll have to come up with the special
Yeah, that's what
conditions before the commissioners meeting,
Meeting.
and those will be presented to them as well. Is that right, Mr.?
Or he said we don't have to
It
do
will be,
it,
and they can add to or delete from.
or he said we don't have to do it and let them do it.
That's true.
They ain't gonna do it.
But
Yeah,
if
but I know
there are
they gonna
concerns
go
from
off what
y'all,
we
you
said.
need to add.
The thing, again, the bottom line is you get into the enforcement problem.
Well, we've approved stuff and people don't enforce it now, so. Like those solar farms, we approved those, who enforcing that?
That's good for the county, isn't it?
Everything else, we approve, who enforcing?
Well,
So if we look at it that way, we wouldn't approve anything. If we taking that vantage point from it,
I mean, I do think there should be conditions on it. On the-
Right.
On the size, buffering, you know, now, I mean, I feel like it's just good faith for us to do it, whether they upheld it or not, that's on them. But at the end of the day, if we approve it or not approve it, they're the final say so. So, I mean, they can get up there and say no, and then that's between you and them.
Mhm.
But, I mean,
but like the buffers, I mean, they've gone,
no, the buffering is fine, but I mean, I do think,
yeah, I think they've gone above
Yeah,
what they
yeah,
were supposed to do for the buffers. So it's just up to
But
us.
there's no detail on what's here. Anybody can draw a circle. There's no detail.
No, but if you look at this drawing, it gives distances. It's again, that's why I brought a little bigger.
We don't-
copy.
determine-
Plant
we don't
name-
determine
what plant name is on these plants, on your plans.
We don't determine that, we just determine the ordinance part. So if they say they're gonna put up,
The conditions we do determine.
we can.
Yeah.
We can, but we go off the ordinance. We go off what's in our ordinance. And then whatever, so if we going off what's in our ordinances, we going off what's in black and white. And the conditions we set has to line up with our ordinances. So we can't say they gotta put a myrtle, we can't say they gotta put a oak.
You can.
You
Is
can,
that in your ordinance?
you can impose.
That's a condition.
You can impose.
Right, that's a
conditions
condition.
Over and above the ordinance, yeah.
Right, that's a condition.
I would say put up the vote and let the board vote on how they feel.
Yeah.
I mean,
Cause you got, I mean, but you gotta, if you're talking about putting conditions, then now we talked about it.
that's gonna be, we can
And
hear all
then
night.
you're gonna have to have another meeting
Yeah.
to come up with conditions to do if you wanna send it to the commissioners.
If we don't put conditions on it, there will be no conditions on it.
Right.
But they're not gonna do it during the meeting.
I wrote a few of them down as y'all were going along. He
I
said,
did as well.
sorry,
I wrote some down as well.
90-foot buffer on Highland Road, 40 to 50 feet buffers on the side and the back. Buffers constitute white, I think you said white smoke. Is that what you?
Wax myrtle
Would
is
you
fine,
recommend
that's what the engineer came up with, but
The
wax
gravel
Well, you're an
road
expert on that.
myrtle, wax myrtle will live if it's maintained, but if it's not maintained, it will not live.
Get a consent from Duke, 24-hour security, background checks. Mr. Blue mentioned a performance bond, which I think is probably a pretty good idea. You know, we could include that performance bond subject to approval of the county manager and county attorney. You may want to dictate what sort of material was used for paving, or you may not.
He had said gravel road.
That's what he said.
That's
yeah.
what he presented, but I don't know whether that's gonna be a good idea.
So you
Let me ask you a question. The part,
The,
that you
the
said
pictures that
is,
he's given us show
what type of,
concrete
how you,
drives
or
on
what
these.
type do they have?
They usually have gravel drives.
And you said they've been there for 30 years.
Well, yeah, their main entrance is paved, but they have a really elaborate sign and stuff.
They have a full clubhouse.
Yeah, yeah.
And a pool and everything else. So
Right.
generally, your entrance would need to be a hard surface and not a roadable surface. And the rest tends to be, a lot of them are just soil roads. You know, it's hard packed soil road, maybe sand, clay, or it could be gravel. Just
Yeah,
depends on the site.
The big part there, their inside roads are soil and,
The entrance is paved.
yes, the main entrance and into the clubhouse is paved, but
Well, see, there's not gonna be a clubhouse here, and that's one thing that we've said all along, is there's no attraction here, it's just come in.
They're gonna have a rec center in the,
Is it gonna be a
park.
theater, or is it
Me,
gonna
you
be
must
a
have broke
big
down the same
building, or?
one.
They have a rec center park, then they say they're looking to do a splash pad.
Well, we don't have any dimensions or requirements on the rec center. It could be an outhouse, or it could be a cathedral.
We don't have
You show some trust on me.
we don't have to have that.
Excuse
Part of
me.
our portfolio.
Once it's put up on the floor to vote.
I mean, but somebody gotta make a recommendation. I don't, who's gonna
All
make?
right.
But let me ask you, Brooke, we don't have to have those dimensions. Like if they're gonna do a rec center, like they got the rec center. Do we have to have the dimensions of what the rec center is gonna be? Like we just
In order
approved.
to approve the campground, you do not, but when they go to build and construct that, it does have to have engineered plans that will show dimensions.
Because that's a whole different permit process. Before
Right,
we
and they
start,
have to come back and do all
That
that.
is right.
They might do it,
I mean,
might
they
not
won't have to
do
come
it.
back before the board, but they'll
Right.
have to go through the permitting
Permit
process.
process.
building codes and permits,
I
inspection.
mean, they may do it, they may not, they may tell
Right.
us and then don't do it at all.
That's
Right.
exactly.
I mean, I don't,
They have that a bit.
I don't really care, I mean, that's. what
Because
we
you gotta understand, you just approved a gentleman to have a commissary on his property, but you didn't
That was
ask
a
no.
rezoning.
Okay, but I understand that, but you ain't asked nothing about building specs, or you
Yeah,
said, what kind
that's
of
it. You
building?
said 30 by
That's
30.
not our deal, that's the building inspections and all of
Just
that.
like this.
That's just the same.
I mean, I don't have, that's not my right.
That's the same, that's the same.
Care less about
That
the
is
rec center,
exactly the
splash
same.
pad.
And I know even when the brewery people came last time, right? We had a bunch of questions for them. I was hearing, but there was no representation to even answer the questions, right? But we were able to approve it because it's going to be good for the community. That's the intent over here as well, right? We are trying to provide all this information. Of course, there are going to be some questions, right? But at the end, you got to trust the process as well. I'm not here to just sell a random idea, right? We are going to be building something in the community. We want to be here for years to come, right? I'm going to keep seeing you. You will keep seeing
I
me.
mean, technically, it's not for the community, because the
No.
community may not use it. I
Right.
mean, it's a business, I get it.
Correct.
You're here to make money, I get it.
The
Nothing wrong with
business,
that.
correct. But this will drive businesses around in this community as well. Like people will go out. I mean,
I hope so. I mean,
exactly.
I
I hope so
it
too.
will.
I hope so too.
I highly doubt it.
I
but,
hope so
I
too.
mean,
Yeah.
I think if you require a performance bond, some of the concerns you have may be possible to.
I mean, my whole thing is that I know if we don't do it here, I know when it goes there, that's not.
They're not gonna do it, they're not. They're
Then
not.
they're gonna go by what we say. And I'm not saying if we put conditions on it, they're gonna stick. They may say those conditions don't matter. I mean, it goes to my whole point, it goes back to put conditions on something that's not enforceable.
Yeah,
We're gonna waste our time in this.
with no enforcement officer, we're throwing out there a pit bull with no teeth.
So let's not do no
I think the performance performance bond though, that he
I don't
suggested.
know nothing about that.
Well, I do.
So can that be a condition that he has to get it before?
Right.
Sorry, Charlie.
And that's holding them like financially accountable, right?
Yeah, he'll-
That's holding them
from what I've
financially
read,
accountable.
But who's gonna check on that? Like,
Oh, they have to submit it and maintain it.
Yeah.
What I suggested was as approved by the county manager and county attorney.
Mhm.
And I definitely will make that recommendation to the commissioners too.
I'll ask you more about what a performance bond is, but yes, if it helps, then yes.
It is very common.
Okay,
Usually people use it because they want to get early approval to get release. And they can go ahead and do a lot of things
Cause with,
that would normally take a lot longer to get their final
On
approval.
subdivision lots and things like that.
Yeah, stuff like that, without their final landscaping and things like that. But there are different ways you can use them. So,
cause the performance bond holds them financially accountable.
Yes.
So is that gonna be the condition? I mean, somebody gotta do something.
yeah, I'm sure your county attorney definitely would look at that and review it. 'Cause I know that they. this
That's
is
him
not-
right there.
Oh, all right, there you
Yeah,
go.
that's him right there.
well, I'll put the motion up. The motion will be, with the condition of a performance bond on this property. Any other conditions?
The setbacks that, I think Brooks got a list that coincides with what I read, is that right?
Yes.
I would make all of, excuse me, all those things conditions. Background checks, due consent, 24-hour security, the setbacks, 90 feet on the front, 40 or 50 on the side, and the buffering, the wax myrtle, is that what you're?
You said 40 on the side, right?
Well, he said 50 after he initially said 40, so I don't know. He said initially 40, and then he said something about a road and said 50.
No,
so-
with the
I'm
driveway,
not gonna do anything.
Now,
So-
the driveway, you're counting the driveway as part of the setback?
no, so I mean, when I said 50, yes, but regardless, in this setback that we have, that's the ordinance minimum requirements. The ordinance, I called, remember the 40 feet in the front, side 10 feet, and the back 30 feet, that's like the ordinance minimum requirement. However, we've gone above, because obviously, it's okay, we have the space, we don't want everything to be cramped anyways, right?
Right.
So, in addition to the 30 feet on the back, we have a driveway, which is 20 feet, right? Like, making it two-way road, so that technically, you're not going to see any RV park like for 50 feet from the back. And we anyways don't have anything at the back anyway, so that's a whole different discussion. But regardless, right, like, coming back to this, like, nothing on the sides anyway, so it's really the front and this side over here, if we utilize this space.
The other thing we'll do on the performance bond is make them comply with all the other provisions of the ordinance.
What kind of fencing is even on the ordinance, or perimeter fencing or anything else? To me, if you've got kids in this place, you've got a railroad and there's no fence,
I wondered if anybody.
if there's no fence separating them from railroad, I don't see that, you don't have a fence unless it's about 6 feet tall, because if you can see over it, you go over it.
Didn't you say something about a gated community or gated?
Correct. We're gonna make sure that there is gonna be a.
They have a gate, but no fence.
No, we're gonna have a fence, of course,
All the way
What
around
kind
the
of
property?
fence?
Yes.
What kind of fence?
I mean, I'm not expert at all of that, but
I don't think so.
if you have a recommendation, you can let us know what we need, like, what's a good one, we'll definitely keep that in mind and put that in. But otherwise, we were thinking,
Concern is the children getting near the railroad.
of course, 100%, we would like to keep safety first anyways, right? So that's why we are keeping all the buffers, keeping them away from all these things, and that's
That'll
why,
reduce your liability too.
Exactly,
No children
exactly.
get run over by a railroad.
exactly.
Right.
And that's why if you see a plan, we only strategically place the recreation building over there.
Oh, I would say if you don't have a 3 to 4 foot, wax myrtle in a 5-gallon,
I didn't know.
Up. minimum 5 gallon.
Oh, I'm talking about the fence for the railroad.
The fence should be, I really feel like it should be 6 feet, but heck, it could be whatever they want. Just put it 6.
I mean, but we got conditions, we can put the conditions on
Yeah.
the, what type of, like,
Are you talking about a slatted fence or what is it?
I didn't say that. If he's screening as well, but I'm not sure he's not gonna have the road going right down the side of the railroad. You can't tell.
Well, the fence is really not for the buffering, it's for the keeping the children.
No, that's true, but I'm just saying, the fence could be on the line or 1 foot off of it. But I can't follow this plan, it doesn't really show the
You want to-
driveways.
Does someone have a list of the conditions?
Yeah, he has a list.
I think Brooke and I have the same list.
Yes.
And I'm adding to it a.
I mean, these conditions are good, but we're anyways planning to do all of that.
Right,
You know,
Understand.
that's always been a plan.
right.
So,
It's like, it's just like without them being enforced, it's like, it's just,
yeah, see, as I said, like, we want to set an
you
example,
can
right?
tell us that you're gonna do it, but
Yeah.
you know in the back of your mind, they're not enforced, they don't have to do them.
Right.
I mean, it's up to, I mean,
If you don't do it, it's just going to increase our liability and our, safetiness, right? Because there's a railroad, there might be kids. We want to make sure that that's the thing. All these things are the thing that's going to drive people to come here, right? Like, so if we don't do it, we are at a loss,
Yeah. Let me ask you something. So we can go ahead and wrap this up because we talk in circles. Is there any way that we can add to the conditions if they don't follow the conditions? Is there any type of legality
I think there's
that
a
we can
process,
take place?
I think there's a process for, under the ordinance for her to be able to get an order of abatement or,
So we
in
can,
general,
add-
in
we,
general, she would have that authority
we can
anyway.
use that as part of condition. We can put
Well-
it as a condition
I don't think you have to put it as a
You don't have to
condition, I
put
think
it
that's
in.
inherent
in the ordinance.
in her authority.
Authority.
yeah.
Okay.
So the fence would be 6 feet high and a material adequate to keep children away from the railroad, is that
I would say chain link.
chain link? Is that what you want done?
that's fine.
Brooke, you and I have the same things.
You want to make a recommendation?
No, I'm
Your paper,
I've got two different sections.
we can make it since you're closer.
You want me to read it?
Go ahead, you can make a recommendation here, read them all.
The 90-foot setback on Highland.
So you want me to make it as he's on this? But I'm not gonna be able to remember,
No,
like,
make the recommendation
Okay.
and then allow him
It's on
to.
2 sheets here.
Okay. Well-
Yeah, you want to read it off?
You can make it a recommendation, Devon, and then he can just say with what conditions.
Conditions, right.
so I recommend that, we approve the special use, application number 543-25. Josh and Harsh, with conditions
As follows.
as follows.
A 90-foot buffer on Highland Road. Did you say a 50-foot is agreeable on the side or not? In the back?
I would say we can set to this, because I have this is a drawing right in front of me. Back setback is 30 feet,
30?
30 feet. Side setback is 10 feet.
No, that's the
That's
current
the
ordinance.
minimum.
That's a minimum.
Minimum.
That's a
Yeah,
minimum.
that's- He's not asking that,
But
he's
tell us
asking
what
what
you're
you
going to
propose.
put.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? You're
Thank
doing.
you.
Your side is 50.
I'm sorry?
50
You
off.
said yours.
Okay, 50 on the back, and on the side, we can have 20 from what I'm looking at.
That's what the ordinance are.
No, the ordinance is 10.
Ordinance is 10 for the side.
You had said it at one time 50, another time 40.
Which one?
Changes on
Which
the
one?
sides.
Side 50 was, I don't think so. 50 feet for the sides,
You said that.
not on the side, no.
Well, what did you say?
Well, what would you agree to?
What do you want?
I mean, it's
want?
up to you,
The
because if you say what
minimum
you're
is
gonna say,
10,
you
you
might
said it
wanna.
would
I
be
think-
30.
Huh?
The minimum is 10,
Correct.
you
for the-
said it would be 30
Correct, okay,
on the side.
okay.
30?
Is that what you had written down when he said it?
No, I wrote 40.
I think 40 was what he.
You wrote 30, right?
I wrote 30.
A fencing requirement of 6 feet high chain link fence along the border with the railroad. And is that supposed to be just the railroad or all the way around?
He said
He
it.
said-
We're gonna put it all
He
around.
said they're gonna put in
Yeah.
the whole property, because it's
Okay.
gonna be gated.
In toto, okay. Get a consent from Duke to use their right of way in some fashion or being their use would be consistent with the Duke right of way. 24-hour security, background checks, and a performance bond.
All right,
Anything
so
else, Devin?
I think that's it.
Brooke, you have
And
anything
the-
extra?
And comply with the,
The
Yes, sir.
hard entrance surface,
yeah,
Oh, the hard interest surface.
You're saying paved
Paved entry.
roads.
Yeah, DOT generally would require a paved apron to a certain amount off the roadway as well.
what would the general depth of that be?
How do you do a
Depends on the
background check?
usage. It's at least 30 feet, something like this. It might be 60 feet, but it's DOT dependent.
How do you do a background check on somebody that's coming from the ocean going home? They stop there overnight.
So we'll employ the same strategies that, hospitality businesses employ, gather SSN, driver's license, run a check on that. It's a quick check. There are softwares available that can give you results in like a couple of minutes.
How do you have access to the police information network to get a PIN check?
So it's going to be the third-party provider that we use, they have access to it, or the
Oh,
entire
you
database.
contract with a provider?
We would have been,
Okay.
exactly. That's what hospitality businesses do. Like even, it's like a background check, even when you start working for an employer, right? That's how they get all their data. It's a database based on your social security and all that.
All right, so, oh, yes, on that side.
I was just gonna say, that's what we do when we run credit reports. We get criminal background and
Through a third party.
for rentals.
So the motion has been made by Davon for approval, sent to the commissioners for approval with the conditions that have been set forth. Do I have a second?
I'll second
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign.
No,
4 ayes, 1 no. So we will send this to the commissioners for their viewing, and they have the final say at their next meeting. And we have approved it with the set conditions of training. Thank you for your time, and thank you for coming down to Stockton County once again.
Thank you everybody for all the time. I know,
And I see we don't have any other business. Brooke, do we have any other business? All right, can I get a motion that we adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Motion been made by John, second by Davon.
John, McClain?
No, John Cooley,
Okay.
and second by Davon. I got two John.
third is by John.